Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Thursday's Look North. Our top story tonight. Smartphone peril. Concerns over the impact mobile devices are having on the mental health of primary school children.
You don't need a phone if you're 8, 9 and 10 because you're way too young. You don't need to text anyone if they're at your school because you can just talk to them.
We'll hear about a campaign to encourage parents not to buy smartphones for younger children. Also tonight, residents of Grimethorpe evacuated from their homes over safety concerns have been praised by police. We'll meet the theatre company keeping the right to ramble alive. And it's No Mo May, the project in Bradford encouraging us all to allow nature to run wild.
And it's been another lovely day with temperatures in the low 20s. A similar forecast for tomorrow, but what about the weekend? Some changes perhaps. I'll be back at the end of the programme with your latest forecast.
Hello there. First on the programme, parents at a school in West Yorkshire have started a campaign to encourage other parents not to buy smartphones for their young children. Now, it's something that's supported by the head teacher at Meltham COE Primary School, and it's a big talking point at the moment, isn't there? Because there's concerns that exposure to mobile phones has a negative impact on the mental health of young children. So how many children of primary school age own a mobile phone? Let's take a look at some data, shall we? A recent study from Ofcom found that 9 in 10 11-year-olds have their own mobile phone. 27% of 3 to 4-year-olds have one, and 61% of 8 to 11-year-olds own their own mobile. Half of children aged 3 to 12 use at least one social media app or website, despite the minimum age requirement being 13. Heidi Tomlinson has been to Meltham Primary to find out why parents are taking action to reverse that trend.
Put your hands up if you have a smartphone.
A classroom debate about an issue seeping into the playground, even though mobile phones are not allowed in school. At Meltham Primary, teachers and parents are pushing back against the trend for younger children to have regular access to a smartphone.
I got mine about 2 or 3 years ago when COVID started because both of my friends had one and my parents wanted me to be in touch with them.
Message friends, call family.
I think if you're in high school, maybe in year 6, you could own one if you're walking home.
This cost £20.
Oh, wow. That's cheap.
Julia Roebuck is trying to persuade children and parents of 8 and 9-year-olds to opt for a basic phone as an alternative to a smartphone, so they can't access social media and chat groups.
The online space is falling well short of safeguarding measures, and in a physical world, we wouldn't put our children into a space which we thought for a second would fall short of safeguarding measures. So I don't see why it should be any different online.
A school survey conducted here yesterday reveals how much children are actually using mobile phones. 8 to 11-year-olds were asked, and it turns out that 66% of those have access to a mobile phone. 94% use messaging apps or social media, and 61% of those report feeling upset as a result of those online chats.
Some of my friends, they were being mean to each other, and then all my other friends were getting involved in the argument, and then it was just one big argument.
Well, cyberbullying, unknown callers, just people generally being mean.
I remember a year ago, my friend just got a phone and then he was being attacked by some people.
You don't need a phone if you're 8, 9 and 10 because you're way too young.
I've been here for 12 years. 12 years ago, this wasn't a problem at all. Now it is more than weekly that we have to try to resolve problems that have started outside school that are impacting on children's social and emotional well-being, on their desire to come into school.
With increasing evidence about the negative impact of social media on a child's mental health, a growing number of parents are supporting the Smartphone-Free Childhood campaign.
Take them off them, be strict, don't bring them to school, and that's it, and you'll have no problems. My little girl's in year 5, she's got a smartphone, but she goes to dance classes and stuff and she just takes it there. She's not on it all the time.
I mean, we've had to limit what Freya does because she can, to social media, she can just get onto anything just by putting the wrong age group in, the wrong, faking her own birthday. You can get onto anything, and it's the amount of arguments it's caused.
Parents say they want to focus on replacing screen time with playtime. Heidi Tomlinson, BBC Look North, Meltham.
It's a subject that we have covered a lot the last few months. I'm joined now by Leeds-based psychotherapist Dr. Charlotte Armitage, who's done a lot of research into screen time and the impact it can have on children. This is parents taking matters into their own hands at this school. Is it the parents' job, or should schools be doing more, Charlotte?
I think it's a combination of both, but I think ultimately it's a parent's decision about the actions that their children take. So much like we would make choices around their diet and their exercise, what activities they do outside of school, I think it is on us as parents to parent screen time and parent the use of screens. Yeah.
There is peer pressure, isn't there, from friends having these phones, as we know as parents ourselves, but as we've just heard, there are children accessing things that they shouldn't be accessing on those phones.
Yeah, you know, the problem with devices is the content is not controlled. So actually there's all sorts of content. We are all a victim to the algorithms on these devices, which have been designed to make the device much more addictive and to hold our attention. Then we've got young children who really aren't aware of what the devices are doing, so they aren't able to manage their own behaviour, and we can't expect them to either, really.
So in terms of the mental health impact, what concerns do you have when it comes to giving children a device too young?
Oh, I have so many concerns about it, really. I mean, the impact on development starts from very, very young. So we see the impact on language. So people who work in speech and language clinics are saying that there's a language delay. They're seeing a lot of language delay in toddlers now, aged 2.5 to 3 years old. That then impacts the child when they go to school. It'll impact them academically. We see an impact on the pincer grip. So we're seeing the impact really, really young. My biggest concern is the impact on interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills are essential and vital for all areas of life, so work, social, occupational, everything that we do relies on our interpersonal skills. So if we don't develop the building blocks of those young, then we will struggle throughout life, and I think it's compounded throughout devices, throughout the trajectory of our lives.
Charlotte, thank you. We have been doing some work together, haven't we? So there'll be more coming up on this on the next few weeks on Look North. Thanks, Charlotte. Now, next tonight, residents in Grimethorpe have been thanked by police and council leader after more than 100 homes were evacuated yesterday. It followed a police operation at a house in Brearley Road in the town. Now, most residents were allowed to return to their home last night when the exclusion cordon set up by police was reduced and then later removed. With the latest, here's Kathy Kellick.
The house at the centre of this drama is still being searched by police, but the 100-metre cordon initially set up has been removed and all the roads reopened. Just 3 houses are still out of bounds to residents. Barnsley Council has arranged alternative accommodation for the families affected. The Army's explosive ordnance disposal team and the military ordnance disposal team have now left the house, leaving the police behind to continue their searches. That is likely to take some time. A 57-year-old woman and a 58-year-old man arrested yesterday are still in police custody. They're being questioned under suspicion of offences under the Firearms Act. An air of calm has descended once more at St Luke's Church in Grimethorpe. It's still open as a rest centre, but the numbers of people being looked after has decreased dramatically since last night, when most residents were allowed to return to their homes.
We got local volunteers coming along wanting to help. Our own social services teams worked with all the families affected to see if they had any particular needs that needed to be addressed. So we had to put 2 residents into residential care for a short period. Some families had to go to hotels because they didn't have friends or family they could go to. So a huge operation. The people of Grimethorpe were absolutely brilliant. Obviously the professionals did their job top class. So while we don't want this incident, the way it was dealt with, the people of Grimethorpe have something to be very, very proud of.
Red City Chippy is a stone's throw from the house being searched. The evacuations meant having to close early and lose a day's trade.
Just couldn't open up, obviously, so it just lost a lot of business and money, but community stayed together and that, like, but just got no business at all, which is not very good, like, but there's nothing you can do about it, is there?
Police say they found suspicious items at the house yesterday, prompting the emergency response. The woman arrested is also being questioned under suspicion of possession with intent to supply Class A drugs. But as the operation is scaled down, normality is returning here. Cathy Killick, BBC Look North, Grimethorpe.
Researchers in Yorkshire are trying to prove that giving patients exercise and wellbeing classes can help their recovery and their long-term prognosis. Yorkshire Cancer Research believes a scheme it's running in Harrogate can save lives and should be rolled out more widely across the NHS. Peter Harris has more.
My name is Heather. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2002. Fast forward 20 years later, I was diagnosed with secondary breast cancer, which means it's treatable but not curable.
Heather's part of a fitness group with other cancer patients, a group Les joined as part of his recovery from prostate cancer.
You're not on your own, you've got different people come in, all have different cancers and different treatments, and it's good to see how people have progressed over the weeks that we've been coming and doing it.
This is Yorkshire Cancer Research in Harrogate, where they believe there's evidence exercise like this brings improved outcomes for patients.
The evidence is looking like it's to do with the immune system, your circulation, oxygenation and hormone levels. But it's going to be a combination of different things. But the evidence isn't 100% yet on how it's being achieved. We think the evidence is already there from America, Canada and Australia that it does work for cancer patients.
Nice and tall, cores engaged, beautiful straight line.
It's known as Active Together and part of a research programme with Sheffield's Hallam University to prove the link between personalised exercise and nutrition and improved cancer recovery.
We think it should be commissioned as part of everyday cancer care through the NHS, and certainly programmes like Active Together demonstrate that it's really good for patients, they enjoy being part of it, but it also importantly has positive impacts on their overall health and also on the costs and cost reductions for treatment in the NHS.
They hope the work here and the research will lead to these classes being rolled out across the NHS.
It's amazing. I can't stress how good it is and how it makes you feel at the end of it. You go out I go out with a massive smile on my face.
Peter Harris, BBC Look North.
Well, let's keep with healthcare. The latest data from NHS England shows that none of the acute hospital trusts in our region is meeting the waiting time targets in A&E. The government say 95% of patients should be seen within 4 hours. In April, more than 131,000 people attended major A&E departments across the 13 trusts in our region. Of those, 64% were seen within the target time. Dr Sue Crossland is the past president of the Society of Acute Medicine and a Yorkshire-based consultant who says the pressure is being felt across hospitals.
We often talk in the Society of Acute Medicine about the ongoing eternal winter, and I think we're really at the point now where winter hasn't changed. There's an extreme pressure on bed bases. Most hospitals still have some sort of extra capacity beds open, but even despite this, we're still seeing patients having unacceptable delays in ED, waiting over 12 hours for beds.
Meanwhile, data also shows delays in ambulances responding to some emergencies. The target for type 2 emergency calls, which includes heart attacks and strokes, is an average of 18 minutes. In April, the time it took for Yorkshire Ambulance Service to respond to these calls was just over 26 minutes. NHS England say improvements continue to be made, with ambulances responding faster to emergency calls and more people being seen at A&E within 4 hours compared to the start of the year. An inquest has opened and adjourned into the death of a man found on a bedside alongside his wife at their home in Leeds. Police found 61-year-old Dennis O'Leary next to Karen O'Leary at Fernville Close in Oakwood 2 weeks ago. An earlier inquest heard she died of multiple stab wounds. The hearing also heard the bed had been damaged by fire. The coroner said further tests were needed to establish the cause of Mr Leary's death, but it was clearly not a natural one. King Charles is set to continue being patron of the Yorkshire Agricultural Society. It follows a review of the charities and organisations that the royal household is connected to following His Majesty's accession. The Society organises the Great Yorkshire Show, and it runs a number of businesses on the Great Yorkshire Showground in Harrogate. Now, last weekend, a mayor for York and North Yorkshire was elected. It's a new role for the county and for the man now in charge. Labour's David Skaith, who won by 15,000 votes, is completely new to politics, and he'll be making big decisions on things like transport, housing, policing, and he is here with us now. Congratulations, David.
Thank you very much.
So, David, you've gone from being a small business owner, managing the budget there, to now managing a budget of £80 million.
It is quite a step, yeah. I mean, it has to be made clear that we have a fantastic team in place already. So the whole combined authority has been around for a couple of years now, building this team. So we have a fantastic organisation already in place who have been doing so much work already. And I'm going to come in and add to that and bring my ideas into what we want to achieve.
Well, housing is a big issue. In York especially, housing's 9 times the average salary. How are you going to fix that?
I believe in York it's actually 11 times and it's 9, so it's right across the region. It's a huge problem we have. We are going to be focusing heavily on affordable housing and rental properties, flats as well. We know a lot of young professionals want that flexibility of where they're living, but it's something we need to target right across the region. We do have that issue where housing is very expensive and the next generation of people can't stay in our region, unfortunately. So it's how we look at the housing that we need right across York and North Yorkshire. We take down those areas. We can look right across the whole region.
It's a fine balance, though, isn't it, between expanding those villages on the outskirts of places like York and providing enough housing at the same time, building on places where they've got enough infrastructure.
Yeah, so we already have a couple of fantastic opportunities in York already. So we have the York Central plan, for example, which is going to be producing several thousand homes, and there are another couple of plans across North Yorkshire already. So we do have the opportunities there and the space to do it, but it's how it links into transport as well and how we move those people around the region.
We're going to talk about that, because let's have a listen to some of the other issues that people of North Yorkshire would like you to prioritise.
The question I'd like to put to the Mayor is there going to be some improvement in the transport in Sherburn in Helmet? We've got a train station that doesn't have regular trains.
I'm a serving firefighter with North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue here in Tadcaster. And my question for the Mayor, the new Mayor, would be just around funding for the fire service, really. We're experiencing a lot of pressure within the job. We're not really providing the service that we could provide if the funding was available.
My priority for the new mayor would be definitely revitalizing the high streets and getting them going, getting more small businesses and help for small businesses.
Let's start with transport then. The frequency of buses, especially in rural areas, has been cut by almost half since 2010. So how are you going to fix that?
Yeah, so we're going to come in. So we're going to be getting from the cancellation of HS2. There's going to be a lot more funding in place to be able to develop a full integrated transport system. So across buses, across train, and also how people drive and active travel as well. So having that full system.
Franchising like your counterparts in South Yorkshire and West Yorkshire.
It's certainly something that we are going to be heavily looking into straight away. We do need to remember York and North Yorkshire is a very different region to everywhere else. We have very densely urban concentrated places like York, Harrogate, but then obviously we have the rural and then we have the coastal. So we need a system that works for us. So when people talk of Manchester, we look at, say, Andy Burnham over in Manchester. We are a very different region to that, so we have to work on what works for us, but certainly joining up with the other mayors in South and West Yorkshire to create that very strong Yorkshire transport system will be a key element.
Briefly on fire service funding, council taxpayers are already paying 3% more for the fire service, so could that go up even more?
We've got no plans to do that just yet, and we haven't come across that just yet, but we're going to be working closely with government, and hopefully we're going to be having a Labour government coming in later this year who are really emphasising the importance on our frontline services. Our police have been, fire have been drastically cut, and they do a credible job incredible job on very stretched resources.
And very, very briefly, just on small businesses and support, as we heard there.
Yeah, so I own my own shop. I have done for a long time. Obviously, I'm not in there now, but my drive has always been to really support the high street. So we're creating the Mayor's High Street Fund, and that's going to be going into supporting towns and high streets right across York and North Yorkshire to support local businesses, small businesses, start up, help them to take on these empty units we have and really grow our high streets.
This will not be the first time you're in the studio. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in. Now, if you are planning a walk along a footpath or a bridleway this weekend, the weather certainly looks up for it, doesn't it? Then you've probably got mass trespass of Kinder Scout to thank. Protesters in the 1930s eventually forced a change in the law which gave us the right to roam. Now Micron Theatre Company are using a new show to remind us that a country stroll isn't something that we should take for granted. Tom Ingle went along to see them in action.
We are introverted sheep, must take no road less traveled.
Ain't no mountain high enough to keep Micron Theatre from you. Well known for travelling from venue to venue, usually in a narrow boat, this year's focus is less watery and more welly.
Beware of the bull.
Classic. That's a classic landowner trick, that. There's never actually a bull.
Common Ground recounts the trials of ramblers down the years who just want somewhere to walk.
There's a really important point raised in the play that so many of our sort of paths and rights of way will be lost and made illegal to go down in the next few years if they aren't protected and properly registered.
This is such a beautiful country. You know, it is such an important part of British culture that I think most people probably don't know is in so much danger.
The company are based in the village of Marsden. They're rehearsing at the cricket club in the hills. Right next door is all the inspiration you need to ramble about rambling.
Well, because it's still important, we still only have access to 8% of the countryside.
People think Right to Roam is a story that's over and done with many years ago with the mass trespass on Kinder Scout, don't they?
Well, we wish. That's when the fight for the right to roam began, really. It was becoming very clear that more and more was being taken away from us, and so we're continuing to try and fight for this.
Micron always picks nice bits of social history to turn into shows, don't you?
Yeah, we like to tell the story of the little people behind the big events, and Micron is all about access to the theatre, about breaking down barriers, and that's exactly what this play is about.
Common Ground is on tour along the waterways, pub gardens, allotments and anywhere else Micron can stick up a stage this summer. It's definitely worth a walk to watch.
Don't fence me.
Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Marsden.
Can you imagine bumping into them on a bridleway, eh? Now, we've had some glorious weather, haven't we? Lots of us are spending more time in our garden. Maybe you're thinking about cutting the grass, but should you? Well, this month is No Mow May, which is all about putting the lawnmower away to help support natural wildlife. In Yorkshire, over 218 postcodes have officially signed up to the campaign, including Bradford Council, which will be leaving the grass in its parks to grow throughout the month. Beth Parsons is in Lister Park for us tonight. In the sunshine, I think you got the job of the day there, Beth.
I very much agree. Best gig of the day without a doubt. So No Mow May, a time to ditch the mower and let the grass grow long. I'll be honest, I actually did this last year and there was a weird part of me that felt a little bit embarrassed because compared to all my neighbours, my grass was really uncared for. But it turns out it's actually a pretty good thing to do. You can see this sea of beautiful daisies behind us here in Lister Park. I've been joined by Jo. Now, you know a lot about making sure that things can stay good and fruitful for those butterflies and those bees. Why is it good to not mow our grass?
So don't be embarrassed, and in fact Plant Life's No Mow May is one of the reasons we're encouraging people to just let your lawn go a little bit wild, and this means by not lopping off the heads of your plants regularly, you're allowing them to flower, set seed, and that's vital food for insects, pollinators, all the wildlife you just mentioned in your garden.
So we're in a public park then. There's lots of different patches across Lister Park here in Bradford where they've let it grow long, or there's different sort of arrangements going on. But people can do this at home, whether they have a garden or they don't.
Absolutely, not everyone is lucky enough to have a garden. So in fact, if you go onto Plant Life's website, we've got lots of great resources, ID guides, information about how you can do No Mow May.
Do you think my feeling of embarrassment, is that a common one? Do people often think, oh no, well, people will think I haven't bothered?
I can absolutely understand that, but it is about changing mindset. And in fact, it's really important for everyone to create vital lifelines for nature wherever they can, if possible.
And I guess even if you don't have a garden, you could always just put a pot of lavender outside the front door or something. That's it from us. We're going to go and have a wander around in the nice, long, luscious grass, and I'll leave you to have a look at these beautiful daisies.
Oh, you go roll down those hills. It does look beautiful. No embarrassment here. If it's one less chore to do, I am all up for that, aren't you, Keely?
I feel really bad. I got the husband to do it yesterday, but only because Paul came round for a coffee, and I know what a snob he is, and I knew he'd have something to say about the long grass, but I feel dreadful now.
No more mowing.
No more mowing.
Leave your grass to grow.
Okay, for the rest of May, there's a deal. It's been a lovely day once again, hasn't it? We got up to 22 degrees at the top of the Vale of York, and you can see a lovely day at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park there. The second photo, though, it was a lovely day at the coast. It was a little bit fresher at the coast. We only got up to about 18 degrees here, but it still felt very pleasant in the sunshine. You can get your pictures coming into various different places to the Weather Watchers page, or we're on social media as well. Keely.Donovan on Instagram. So a repeat performance tomorrow, I think. There'll be a little bit of patchy mist and fog to start the day, but some good spells of sunshine are in the forecast for tomorrow. And once again, it will feel warm with very similar temperatures to today. And of course, the settled weather is down to this area of high pressure. It's with us through tomorrow. Saturday looks decent too, but then that high pressure moves away eastwards and makes way for something a little bit more unsettled. At the moment, it's now looking like Sunday. We'll start to see some showers moving eastwards through the course of the afternoon. And then next week, it does look more unsettled and not as warm either. This is the satellite picture. It tells a lovely story. Lots of us got plenty of sunshine through today, and it's a lovely evening out there at the moment. But overnight, we should see a little bit of patchy mist and fog develop once again, particularly in the east and in prone spots, and temperatures will fall back to a mild 10 or 11 degrees. Let's have a quick look at the high water times then. In Scarborough, 16 minutes past 6, and at 6:25 in Filey. So a little bit of patchy mist and fog. That will lift tomorrow, and there will be some fair weather cloud about, but all in all it looks like another decent day. The very small risk of the odd shower, but you'd be very unlucky if you catch one of those. As you can see, most places, most of the day will be dry and bright with some good spells of sunshine, and warm sunshine at that. Temperatures 22, possibly even 23 degrees. And again, it will be a little bit fresher, but still pleasant along the coastline. And tomorrow evening looks lovely, some sunshine to end the day, and then overnight we may well see some sea fog just lapping onto the shore, and that could hug the coastline through Saturday. Otherwise, it looks pleasant with some sunshine and warm showers spreading eastwards on Sunday afternoon, Amy.
I was going to do some gardening tomorrow, but I'm not going to bother now.
Instead.
I will just sunbathe and have a cocktail in the garden instead. That sounds more like it. That is it from us. Tom Ingle with your late news. Bye-bye for now.